Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. Probiotics. You see them in the grocery store in yogurts and kombucha. You hear about them on TV and ads for supplements, and your friends might even swear by them. But with all this information, and sometimes misinformation floating around, it can be really hard to know what's real and what's just a health claim. My goal today is to clear up some of that confusion. Over the next few minutes, we're going to take a journey into the science behind probiotics. We'll talk about what they are, what they do, and most importantly, what the scientific evidence actually says they can and cannot do for your health. I want to give you the tools to be a smart, informed consumer so that when you see that bottle of probiotic capsules, you can make a decision based on evidence, not just marketing. So let's get started. Alright, so let's start with a very simple and clear definition. What exactly are we talking about when we say probiotics? The official definition is that they are live microorganisms that, when administered in adequate amounts, confer a health benefit on the host. Now, that's a mouthful, so let's break it down. Think of your body as a bustling city, and within that city, you have trillions of residents. Most of these residents are microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and they're collectively known as your microbiota. A lot of these residents are neutral, but some are outright harmful, and a lot of them are incredibly beneficial. Probiotics are the good guys, the beneficial residents that we can deliberately add to our bodies to help that city stay healthy and balanced. A key part of the definition is live microorganisms. This means they have to be alive and active to have any effect. This is why you see things like refrigeration warnings on some products, to keep those organisms alive and well. And they need to be in adequate amounts, which usually means billions, not just a handful. While we most often hear about probiotics in relation to our gut health, it's worth noting they're not just limited to the digestive system. You can find them in products for skin health, for women's urogenital health, and more. We'll be focusing mainly on the gut today, as that's where most of the research has been done. The important thing to remember is that we're talking about living, beneficial organisms that you're adding to your body to improve your health in a specific way. Now, before we talk about adding probiotics, we need to appreciate the incredible ecosystem that's already there. The human gut is home to the largest and most diverse community of microorganisms in the entire body. It's a complex, dynamic world. The image on the screen, which shows different types of bacteria in the gut, is a great representation of this diversity. We have more bacterial cells in our gut than we have human cells in our entire body. This is not something to be feared. It's something to be celebrated and cared for. These microbes are not just freeloaders. They perform several absolutely crucial jobs for us. For starters, they're essential for digestion. They help us break down complex carbohydrates and fibers that our own digestive enzymes can't handle, and in doing so, they produce beneficial compounds that our body uses as fuel. Secondly, they're our immune system's greatest teachers. A healthy and diverse microbiota trains our immune system from a very young age, teaching it how to tell the difference between a harmful pathogen that needs to be attacked and a harmless or beneficial microbe that should be left alone. This prevents our immune system from overreacting. They also help produce vital vitamins, like vitamin K and some B vitamins, and they act as a protective barrier. By occupying all the available space and consuming the available resources, they make it much harder for harmful, disease-causing bacteria to set up shop. So, when you think about your gut, don't just think about digestion. Think of it as a vital organ that, with the help of these tiny organisms, plays a key role in your overall health. When you start looking at probiotic supplements or foods, you'll notice a few names popping up again and again. These are the most common and well-researched types. The first is Lactobacillus, a genus of bacteria that's very common and is often found in fermented foods like yogurt. When you look at the ingredients of a yogurt, you might see a specific strain listed, like Lactobacillus acidophilus. The second major player is Bifidobacterium, another type of bacteria that's a key resident of a healthy human gut, especially in infants. You'll often see strains like Bifidobacterium longum or Bifidobacterium breve in supplements. And finally, we have a bit of a curveball, Saccharomyces boulardii. This one is a beneficial yeast, not a bacterium, but it's often sold as a probiotic. It's a great example of how probiotic isn't just about bacteria. This yeast is particularly well known for its ability to help manage and prevent antibiotic-associated diarrhea. So, why am I listing these specific names?
It's not just to sound scientific.
It's because, as we'll get into in a moment, the specific strain of the microbe is the most important factor in determining what benefit, if any, you can expect. You can't just say all probiotics are good for one thing. It's much more specific than that. This is arguably the most important slide of the entire presentation, because this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of why some claims are true and others are not. There's a huge difference between a general claim like probiotics are good for your health and a specific evidence-based claim like probiotic X helps with condition Y. The most critical concept to understand is that probiotic benefits are strain-specific. This means that a health benefit proven for one strain, let's say Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG, does not necessarily apply to all other strains of Lactobacillus, let alone all probiotics in general. Think of it like this. A Honda Civic and a Honda CR-V are both cars made by Honda, but they serve different purposes. You wouldn't expect the Civic to have the same cargo capacity as the CR-V. Similarly, Lactobacillus acidophilus and Lactobacillus rhamnosus are both in the same family, but they are genetically distinct and can have very different effects on your body. Unfortunately, marketing doesn't always make this clear, and many products simply list Lactobacillus on the label, which tells you very little. This is why we have to be critical thinkers. The next two slides will show you where the science is strong and where it's still weak or non-existent. Now let's talk about the claims that are actually supported by strong, reliable scientific evidence. The first one, and perhaps the most well-studied, is the use of probiotics for antibiotic-associated diarrhea, or AD. As a medical doctor, I often prescribe antibiotics, and I know they can disrupt the balance of the gut microbiota, leading to diarrhea. Certain probiotic strains, especially Saccharomyces boulardii and some Lactobacillus strains, have been shown to be very effective at preventing or reducing the severity of this type of diarrhea. A good example would be a patient who has to take a course of powerful antibiotics for a skin infection. Their doctor might recommend they also take a specific probiotic supplement to help maintain their gut balance and prevent a very common side effect. Another area with promising evidence is for managing some of the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. IBS is a complex condition, but for some people, certain probiotics can help alleviate symptoms like bloating, gas, and abdominal pain. The effects tend to be modest, and not everyone with IBS will benefit, but for some, it can be a helpful part of their management strategy. Lastly, some studies have shown that certain probiotics can help prevent or shorten the duration of travelers' diarrhea. This is an area of ongoing research, but there is some evidence to suggest that if you're traveling to a new country and are worried about getting sick, taking a specific probiotic might help. So, these are 3 examples where we can say with some confidence that certain probiotics can be a useful tool. Now we get to the claims that you hear about all the time, but where the scientific evidence is either still in its infancy or is just not very strong. Let's start with weight loss. While there is a lot of research showing a correlation between the type of gut bacteria you have and your body weight, there is no strong evidence to suggest that simply taking a probiotic supplement will lead to significant weight loss. There are so many other factors at play, and this is not a magic pill. Another fascinating and popular area is the gut-brain axis, and it's linked to mental health. We know our gut and brain are in constant communication, and some very early research is suggesting that certain probiotics might have a small effect on mood, anxiety, or depression. However, the studies are small, the effects are likely minor, and we're a long way from being able to say, take this probiotic for your depression. This is an exciting area of research, but it's not a proven treatment yet. The same goes for the idea of a general immune system boost. While a healthy gut microbiota is crucial for a well-functioning immune system, the idea that a single supplement can supercharge your immune system to prevent every cold is largely an oversimplification. And finally, there's some mixed evidence about probiotics for eczema, specifically when given to mothers or infants, but the results are not strong enough to be a universal recommendation. So for all of these claims, the best thing to do is remain skeptical and understand that the science is still developing. So with all that in mind, if you do decide to try a probiotic, how do you even choose one? Don't just grab the first one you see. Here are some things to look for. First and foremost, remember our key takeaway: strain specificity. You want to see the genus, the species, and the specific strain listed on the label. A good example would be Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG. If it just says Lactobacillus, that's a red flag. You don't know what you're getting. Secondly, look for the number of colony-forming units, or CFUs. This tells you how many live, active organisms are in each serving. You want a product with billions of CFUs, but more isn't always better. The right amount is determined by the specific strain and its intended use. Thirdly, I highly recommend looking for products that have been verified by a third party. Companies can self-report what's in their product, but a third-party seal means an independent lab has verified that what's on the label is actually inside the bottle. You also need to pay attention to the formulation and storage. Some probiotics need to be refrigerated to stay alive, while others are shelf-stable. Make sure you're storing them correctly to get the full benefit. And finally, always talk to a healthcare professional like your doctor or a registered dietitian before you start any new supplement. They can help you determine if it's the right choice for you based on your personal health needs. So, should you get your probiotics from food or from a supplement? The answer is, both have a role to play. Fermented foods are a fantastic way to support your overall gut health. Foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and kombucha naturally contain beneficial microorganisms. They also provide other nutrients and, crucially, they often contain fiber, which is the food that your existing gut bacteria need to thrive. So, for general, everyday wellness, incorporating fermented foods into your diet is a wonderful habit. Supplements, on the other hand, are a more targeted approach. If you are specifically trying to address a certain health issue that has strong scientific evidence, like antibiotic-associated diarrhea, a specific supplement might be a better choice.
Why?
Because you can get a concentrated, high-dose amount of a very specific, well-studied strain that's been shown to work for that particular problem. You can't get that same targeted dose from a serving of yogurt. So, my personal recommendation is to start with a diet rich in fermented foods for general gut health, and if you have a specific health concern, talk to a professional about whether a supplement might be right for you. Alright, everyone, let's bring it all together. Here are the key takeaways I want you to remember from today's lecture. First, probiotics are live, beneficial microorganisms, but their benefits are strain-specific. This is the single most important thing to remember. Second, there is strong scientific evidence for certain health claims, particularly for things like antibiotic-associated diarrhea and some IBS symptoms. Third, don't believe every claim you hear. Be skeptical of broad claims, especially for things like weight loss, and understand that many of the more exciting claims are still in the early stages of research. And finally, for general gut health, focusing on a diet rich in fermented foods and fiber is an excellent place to start. I hope this lecture has given you a clearer understanding of the science behind probiotics and helped you feel more confident in making your own health decisions. Thank you so much for your attention.